So this is 5 Minutes with Scott Seaborn, Head of Mobile at the Ogilvy Group. Hi Scott.
Hello.
Can you give us a quick summary of your career to date?
Oh golly, started out doing music, then radio.
What year was this roughly?
20 years ago. And did jingles and radio ads in a studio, and then websites when it was PR really, before banners and stuff. You did all that, and then moved into mobile I think 10 years ago. And,
so you must have been one of the first people then exploring mobile.
Well, there was 3 companies in town doing mobile in those days. It was Mindmatics, 12Snap and Flytext. And I worked at a little kind of boutique mobile specialist, and we had a desk in 12Snap. But luckily managed to get to Ogilvy 4 years ago and do some interesting work.
Who interviewed you at Ogilvy?
First interview was Steve Harding, who's the global CEO of Ogilvy Action. Then it was Paul O'Donnell and Mike Dodds, and then I had to go in front of the 360 board, which had people like Rory Sutherland on it, and do a presentation in front of those guys. Pretty scary, but it was cool.
So did you officially kind of launch mobile within the Ogilvy brand, or did it kind of exist to some extent?
No, pretty much. There was a couple of good campaigns already, but we kind of created my role together, and kind of got our heads down to get some good work out and get some creds. And since then, mobile at Ogilvy's grown, and we have a global head of mobile now in New York called Martin Lange, and globally we have about 250 people that work on mobile.
Wow.
They don't all work full time. I think we have about 15 people working on mobile full time.
Worldwide?
Well,
or just in London?
Yeah, not worldwide, but not just in London. And in London we've got 2 full-time guys and me, and there's lots of people that come and go.
Okay. How would you describe the creative industry in 3 words?
In 3 words?
In 3 words.
Changing before it dies.
Alright, fine, I'll let you get away with that. What advice would you give people that are looking to get in the industry today?
Understand the format of things. Ideas are changing because it's almost like the medium's becoming the message. I mean, it sounds a bit silly, but you know, it's not just like coming up with an idea anymore for telly. There's unique elements of all these things like iPads, and you know, it's really interesting to come up with ideas after thinking about what those elements are. Things like, you know, shaking it, or using the camera, or the microphone, or the speaker, the touch screen, and how to bring briefs to life with those things, as opposed to just, you know, coming up with ideas for mobiles.
So does that incorporate things like interaction design, ergonomics, user experience, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, bringing stuff to life, you know, telling stories on mobiles and pads and everything else is a bit more, you have to think about it a bit differently, that's all.
What key factors do you think led you to being to the level that you are today?
Key factors?
Yeah.
Led me to where I am?
Yeah.
Oh golly, just meeting a couple of guys. I met a mad inventor called Mark Lewis years ago who invented the technology to send a barcode to a mobile. He's not actually mad, but he does dress quite crazy, and you know, he brought me on quite a lot, taught me quite a lot about mobile at the time when I was doing digital stuff, and yeah, you know, I kind of fell into it really, and just found something that I was into, and yeah, just didn't treat it like work. I think if something feels too much like work, then maybe it's not quite right, and you know, I'm going to keep changing until you find that thing that's just not like working anymore.
What's your first love, mobile or your family?
Family, definitely.
Do you ever have arguments over what's more important if you're always on your mobile and thinking about mobile and looking at mobiles or tablet platforms?
We have arguments about how long the kids are on the mobiles, screen time is 1 hour a day in the week and 2 hours at the weekend. That includes all TV, computer games, mobile. But I've got a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, and they both know the iPad back to front. And it's cool, but there's lots of kind of worrisome things around screen addiction and how these devices are changing us. There's a lot of research going on at the moment about how we're all forgetting stuff. Not just because of phones, but 70% of us 10 years ago could remember more than 5 phone numbers. Today it's less than 30%, and that's just one example. Same with maps, directions, all sorts of things. People just don't listen the same anymore.
Is that because they can rely on and trust other products more so than they could in the past?
Well, I think so. I mean, it's just we seem to be just using our brains differently, or less. Hopefully not. But my boy, I went up to his bedroom the other day, and he had all his toys out on the floor: Lego, Action Man, Star Wars, everything, and it was all kind of laid out, and it looked a bit like Wipeout, the TV show. And I said to him, "What are you doing? What are you playing?" And he said, "I'm building a level, Daddy." And I thought, what? And I realised he was building a game level out of his toys, which can be seen two ways, because I don't let him play too many computer games. But I found it, really interesting, because he was being extremely creative. I said, right, take me through it then. And he's like, here's your protagonist, and off you go. And he was, building this game level out of his toys. So, these things have a profound effect. There's not arguments in our house, but certainly there's some struggle over the iPads.
Who's inspired you the most in your career so far?
Oh golly. Well, you know what? It's a bit of a cliche, but I think Steve Jobs was a bit of an inspiration because he was really into change, and I love the whole story about how they pushed him out of Apple because he was developing products without caring if they were profitable, because he thought they were the products to be developed, and you all know what happened after that. Started Pixar. They bought, had to come back. He bought the company back. Ended up owning half of Disney or more than that. And change is something which a lot of people struggle with. And I think Steve Jobs was a master of change. I mean, Siri now on the iPhone 5 is just voice recognition, which has been around forever. And the Nokia N70 had voice command. I mean, phones have pretty much always had that. But Apple do it in a newish way. Well, it's got quite a nice. I'm not taking anything away from Siri because it's cool, but they are masters of change. So it's kind of hard to top that.
Who's the most creative person that you've ever had the pleasure of working with?
Oh golly, most creative is a weird question. Certainly, the guy I've most enjoyed working with is a guy called Alistair Graham. He was creative director at our place at Ogilvy, and now he's ECD at Euros. And he's really, really nice, amazing guy to work with. The most creative is hard to say. I think Rory is incredible to hang out with when he comes up with ideas off the cuff, gives them away like they're not valuable when they're very insightful. But I mean, it's a funny question.
Yeah, no, it's meant to make you think on your feet.
I wish you'd given me these questions before.
What are your interests outside of work apart from your family?
Oh look, we've gone nuts on trees lately. We just moved to Surrey, where we're trying to find a house. It's more expensive than London, and we didn't realise. But I just think trees and forests are incredible, and mountain biking and stuff, and music. Just really simple, but particularly getting out and walking in the trees is just gold for me.
What do you think would be the biggest challenge in the industry in the next 5 years?
Well, this post-digital thing about just making it work, and people kind of moving on from this is a digital thing and it just working, and people don't care what it is you know, whether it's an app or a site or a web app or a HTML5 thing, you know, and it just should work across everything. So this whole kind of cross-platform storytelling thing, I think it's going to be a real challenge for the industry, you know, when, you know, companies like us, network agencies, where I think the stack needs to change, and it is changing. So instead of, you know, building a PC website, the best way to build a website is to build a mobile site first and then build up from there. Not that mobile's more important, it's just that the stack works better instead of having to, you know, repurpose down, not repurpose down, but design down, because, you know, if you build the stack that way, when you're building new stuff, the flow is just so much nicer, and it just really makes sense. But to turn everything on its head like that, which actually has already happened in terms of the way people do stuff, it's quite a challenge, you know, because everything's stacked up the other way at the moment.
Do you think in the future there'll be a need for job titles like yourself that are kind of head of mobile? And I often think the same about head of digital design or head of technology, because with platforms and technologies becoming a lot closer together, there's no need for separation. So how do you see your job title and your role kind of growing and forming?
I don't know. I mean, I think in the short to medium term, we'll see lots of heads of mobile happening in brands. Probably like global roles, you know, brands like, I don't know, Lego, Coca-Cola, you know, Burberry, these kind of things that have already got lots of mobile stuff going on, and it's happening around the place, but it's not really being kind of cleaned up and managed from a kind of senior level. But going forward, yeah, the mobile word, you know, probably should disappear.
Do you see mobile as part of digital? So if someone's a head of digital, effectively mobile is within their responsibility, or do you still see it separate?
Well, I mean, you know, that's an old kind of debate, and I mean, I might be wrong, but I think mobile's different, and it's not about digital, it's about people in different places on the move, you know, and the mobile devices are computers. You know, there's more computing power in an Android or an iPhone than there was in the entire Apollo moon mission, including all of the computers on the ground and in space put together. When that's a fact, a lot more. I think the computer in the cockpit, what's it called, the top of the rocket, ran on half a K, and you know, our phones today run on like 32 gig. So you know, these computers are, in a mobile sense, is a whole, you know, a whole different human condition. You know, it's part of the human condition. I think as creative people, we're in the business of human understanding. That's kind of to quote Rory, and I think, you know, it's different to digital. It's a whole different thing. But, you know, there's a lot of people that just think it's part of digital.
With the current climate and economy not looking very positive, have you ever had the threat of redundancy before?
Threat of redundancy, yeah, I mean, absolutely. A few years ago, when it first hit, you know, you just didn't know, because you know, you think that, you know, budgets might get cut, and they did, and you know, people have to lean out, slim out. But I'd like to think that, you know, if a tree's kind of shrinking, you don't cut off the new shoots, you know, cut off the older branches. But no, I mean, I've had ups and downs, but I'd like to think that mobile's kind of the place to be now, hopefully.
What's the biggest risk you've taken in your career?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I think maybe presenting work to clients without showing it to the creative director first.
Okay.
There's a guy in Mad Men that got fired for that. But, you know, thankfully I was working for Alistair Graham at the time, and he was nice. But
and not Don Draper.
No. Yeah.
And what's the best brand you've ever been lucky enough to work on?
Well, I'm working on them right now, and it's UNICEF. But I can't talk about the campaign at all because it hasn't gone out yet.
Okay.
But they're an incredible brand, beautiful people, and I'm just really, really happy to be working on it, actually.
Let's move on to a quick fire round. FWA or NMA?
Both.
Can line or D&AD pencil?
Oh, golly, pencil.
Digital design or graphic design?
Both.
Creatives or suits?
Creatives.
Apple or Android?
Both.
Degree or no degree?
No degree.
Retained work or pitch work?
Both. I have to say both on loads of these.
Okay. Web or mobile?
Mobile.
Independent agencies or networked agencies?
Networked agencies.
You've got to say that, I guess. Outsourced production or on-site production?
Outsourced.
Watford or Bucks?
Bucks.
Hyper Island or Miami Ad School?
Oh, golly. Hyper Island.
And lastly, Don Draper or Roger Sterling?
Don Draper.
Cool, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.